Good afternoon. And today we have an honor to interview uh, Marion Nestle. Marion Nestle is a professor of nutrition and food studies and public health. Good afternoon, Marion.
Hello, glad to be here.
And thank you very much to our audience. If you have trouble sleeping or sleep next to the snoring partner, please click the like and share button. If you're a medical professional who, just like us, trying to find the way for our patients for the better restorative sleep, this interview might be for you. We're going to talk about how nutrition affects our health as well as our sleep. And I'm going to give my own story how I met Miss Marion Nestle. I met her at the book event. And I was very impressed not only with her scientific achievements, but also with her life story, as well as with her spirit. I find her very inspirational. So this about Marion Nestle, just like I mentioned, she's Paulette Goddard Professor of Nutrition, Food Studies, and Public Health, emeritus at New York University, where she was a chair for many years. And she is also visiting professor of nutritional science in Cornell. She earned her PhD in molecular biology and public health nutrition in the University of California. And she has a lot of awards. Part what inspired me the most, the books. Marion wrote a lot of books, not only about nutrition itself, nutrition for pets, but also about politics of nutrition. On our channel, I interview a lot of people who talk about nutrition, and I would like to have Marion point of view about the water we drink, about allergen in the food, why so many people have so much asthma among my patient population, and all of it I find so exciting. And you can find information about Marion underneath this interview, as well as a lot of her books on Amazon. And she lectures, and she has wonderful blog which is in alphabetical order. It has so many topics, and I learned so much, and I highly recommend you to do that. So my first question to you, Marion, would be about your life. How, your life path brought you to the point you are right now? What inspired you to become so knowledgeable in food, food science?
Well, thanks for having me here and for asking that. I'm very old, so the life goes back a long way. But basically, I love food. I love to eat. I think food is one of life's greatest pleasures. It's something you get to enjoy every day, and I've always enjoyed food a lot. And at some point, I have a doctoral degree in molecular biology. I was going to be a basic scientist. But in my first teaching job, I was given a nutrition class to teach, and it was like falling in love. I just loved everything about it because it was about food, which I love, and it was about the science of food, but also the culture that we eat in, and of course the politics, which I've always been interested in. So I've been doing that since my first teaching job. The first time I taught a course in nutrition was in 1975, and I've been doing it ever since. And something new and interesting happens every day. You read about new things in the newspaper all the time. It's really fun.
I would like to ask you if you can share with our audience how old you are.
Oh, I'm 87.
And can you please share with us what's your secret to have that much energy? Is that the food you eat?
Yeah, it's good nutrition, of course. I follow my own advice. I always have. And I'm very fortunate in, I have enough money to buy food. I've had a good job. I live in a nice place, and I like vegetables. That makes it much easier. Oh, and also I know how to cook. I learned how to cook in school. That was very useful. And if you know how to cook and you like vegetables, your diet is probably pretty good.
That's a great life advice. But I would like, since I'm going to tell you what part inspired me in your bio. It's not so much towards the channel and the topic we're going to talk in the future about sleep and food. I would like to ask you about your upbringing. That part, for me, being from Russia, really strike me. Can you share with our audience, that part of your life story?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
I would like you to share with the audience about your upbringing.
My upbringing. Yeah, I didn't understand that word. Sorry. Yeah, I was born into a family of my parents were both members of the Communist Party of the United States, and they raised me to be interested in politics. We didn't always agree about those politics. And I think I was born a skeptical critic. And we've fought about politics from a very, very early age. But many of the many of the aspects of their belief system, equality, fairness, a good life for everybody, against greed, against corporate control, those kinds of things. Those were values that made a lot of sense to me then, and they still make a lot of sense to me.
That's a beautiful answer. Part what I was impressed the most about your summer in communist summer camp in America. I spent my summers in communist summer camp in Russia. I thought it make two of us.
That's really funny. I once visited Russia. I was there in 1959, if you can imagine such a thing. And I visited Komsomol summer camp while I was on that trip. And it felt very familiar.
That's just totally striking for me. So, getting back to our food and politics conversation, what surprised me the most, and maybe you can explain to my audience why so many people in the present time have so much allergy. Basically, everybody allergic to everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think we know the answer to that question, and I certainly don't. I mean, I think that food allergies are enormously understudied. They're not studied very carefully. Very, very few people are interested in food allergies or trying to figure out what they're about. There are lots of hypotheses about why. One thing that everybody agrees on is that the prevalence of allergies is increasing. That seems to be definitely happening, whether it's because people are heavier, because they're eating more, whether it's because life is cleaner and they're not people aren't exposed to as wide a range of bacteria. There are lots and lots of hypotheses, but none of them has proved to be conclusive. And I think it's one of those things where you throw up your hands and you just don't know. When I was growing up, nobody had a peanut allergy. Absolutely. I mean, I never knew somebody my age who had a peanut allergy. Now I know lots of people with peanut allergies. They're much younger. And peanuts have become this dangerous thing for a great many people. Nobody has any idea why. In Israel, there's a product that is given to babies that has peanuts in it. And the Israeli scientists who are studying it say that if you expose babies to peanuts early on, that to this particular product early on, that they don't develop peanut allergies to the same extent as other people do. But that's terrifying for American parents who are worried about such things. So I don't know. I can't answer that question. I'm sorry. Except I recognize the problem, but I don't know what the answer is.
I would like to ask you a complicated question. Do you think we have endocrine disruptors linked to obesity and asthma? obesity and asthma put the food on my table, but I want to know from the food scientist, is that, hormones, what, animals.
Yeah, I mean, this is again something that's not studied very much. In this particular situation, that is the endocrine disrupting chemicals that are in the food supply. Here we have a long history of the makers of those chemicals and the users of those chemicals fighting any attempt to do research about it. Because they don't want to have those results made public. So we now know that these chemicals are just throughout the food supply. They're in everybody's bodies. Children are exposed to them. It's one of the reasons why everybody recommends eating organic foods, because they have less of those chemicals than the standard foods, but people are not studying them to the extent that they should be. And when they do study them, the results of their studies are suppressed. I mean, there's long history of these industries fighting any attempt to expose the harm that these chemicals do.
I would like to ask you a very simple question. Why is it better to eat organic food? Is that true? Organic food is healthier. Why is it healthier?
Because it has fewer of these chemicals in it. I mean, that's the reason. Organics are about production values, and the organic foods are produced with fewer of these potentially dangerous chemicals. And so, we know that children who are raised on organic foods have lower levels of these chemicals in their bodies. Beyond that, it's very difficult to say what these chemicals do or don't do. It's hard to do research on chemicals that are in the foods in very low amounts. But I think we need much more research on this, because one of the big questions that comes up is, why are girls maturing and menstruating at younger and younger ages? When I started,
That's interesting.
when I started menstruating, I was the first in my class, and I was 11. Now there are girls who are 8 years old who are menstruating, and they, what's happening? Part of it is heavier weights. For sure, part of it has to do with the fact that people are heavier now than they were when I was a child. But there are other things going on as well. And the chemicals are part of what we suspect is causing this, although it's very difficult to prove.
Now I would like to ask you about the water. Everybody drinking water from the bottle. I read your blog and your books, and you're talking about tap water. Please tell us, what's so terrible about plastic bottle water? What everybody, people come to my office, they want to have a plastic bottle. Said, oh, give me the bottle of water. It's a norm.
For starters, it's a plastic bottle, and those bottles contribute to the plastic pollution of the world. And it's a completely unnecessary product, because in most areas of the United States, not all, but in most areas of the United States, the water supply is excellent. In New York City, for example, the water supply is excellent. And all you have to do is put that water into a container. You don't have to pay for it. You're not polluting the environment. But the bottled water industry has convinced Americans that tap water is unsafe, which in most cases it's quite safe, and it's safer than bottled water because it's regulated better than bottled water is. And most bottled water is tap water. It's just tap water put into a bottle. It's one of the most ridiculous products ever invented, and it would be really good if people didn't buy bottled water. Sometimes you need it, but if you have a container, you can put tap water in it.
And I would like to hear your answer. What would be the good food to have a restorative sleep?
Well, the big issue about food and sleep is not to eat just before you go to bed, but to eat several hours earlier so you've digested your dinner by then. Um, I recommend a healthy diet for everything, including sleep. And a healthy diet is so simple to explain that the journalist Michael Pollan can do it in 7 words. Eat food, not too much, mostly plants. That advice is so good that it takes care of absolutely everything. It takes care of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, weight gain, COVID-19, and sleep as well. If you eat a diet that is based on real foods, that means not heavily processed foods, and you're balancing your calories, and you've got plenty of fruits and vegetables and grains in your diet, you're doing fine, and you don't need to worry about these things.
And can you illuminate what would be the most toxic food for the sleep? What keep us
Alcohol.
awake?
Yeah, in a
No?
word, alcohol. You should not drink before going to bed. It's going to wake you up. So, yeah, I mean, I'd eat a healthy diet, don't drink too much, don't smoke, and you'll be doing great.
And the difficult question, what advice you can give regarding allergy and asthma to the community, of people who want to sleep well, how to reduce to exposure to the triggers, what trigger
Well,
allergy and asthma?
well, you want to get your government to make sure that there's clean air in your neighborhood. This is a political issue, and it's not something that individuals can do on their own very well. Asthma is triggered by environments that have a lot of toxic things in the air. If you don't want people to have asthma, you keep the air clean. And keeping air, water, and soil free of pollutants is a very good idea for health in general, and asthma
And
in particular.
And another thing regarding home cooking, that would be my last question. I know in our society, it's kind of not even cool to do home cooking, but I think it's significant contribution to a lot of disease. What's your view? How it can be changed?
Oh, I think everybody, the first thing you do is you teach kids how to cook. I learned how to cook in school in home economics classes. That was enormously valuable as a skill. I think we need to bring that back. Cooking is fun. If you know how to do it, it's fun, it's easy, it's quick, and you can make better food at home than you can eat almost anywhere.
Thank you very much, Marion. It was such a pleasure. We got an idea what to do, with the healthy food and how food contribute to good sleep. We really appreciate you, and I highly recommend to my audience to read your book as well as Nutrition for Pets, which I find really interesting. And the policy, I hope it's going to be changed to more home cooking environment, and food would look like food in general. Thank you.
Thanks, and thanks for having me.